Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our friends from Pakistan, and particularly the Chief Minister of Punjab. Absolutely delighted to welcome him to the Institute, as well as a welcome return to Michael Barber, an associate at the Institute and a good friend. Because, in a sense, the topic we're going to hear about this morning isn't a new one for an Institute audience, particularly those who've been looking at implementation and delivery. Because at Michael's, both the launch of his book, which keeps on almost getting relaunched. I see so many appearances of his on social media and Twitter. The experience he's had working with the Chief Minister has been a very important element in the book, because one of the things in the 10 years since Michael left working in Whitehall has been his experience in Pakistan looking at health and education reforms. And at a time when the delivery and implementation issues are being taken up by governments around the world, it's particularly interesting to look at an example where the techniques on delivery and implementation have been applied by the government in Punjab. I'm also very grateful for the support and encouragement of DFID for the event today, because they've also been very much involved in Michael's work in Pakistan. And particularly looking at education and health reform, and the numbers are quite staggering, as we'll be hearing later. 2 million more children into school, and reforming a health delivery service to a province of over 100 million people. Makes the issues of the NHS look slightly small by comparison. So what's going to happen is that we are going to see a short video in a minute, and then we'll have a conversation between Michael and the Chief Minister, which I will moderate. I'll act as the umpire on, and stimulant on, and then we'll open it up to questions. So a lot of people in this room who have a lot of experience on delivery and implementation issues, and I know they'll want to explore the questions raised. We're on a pretty tight timetable because the Chief Minister is going around Whitehall seeing people. He's already been in the Cabinet's office, and he's going to DFID later this morning. So I will try and keep everything tight. So if we could have the video, please.
Yes, you can play the video.
It'll just be behind your head, Chief Minister.
Punjab is a province of 100 million people. It is our passion and our ardent hope that we will bring far better health and education services in the province.
With 52,000 schools, 350,000 teachers and 11 million students, Punjab has one of the biggest public education systems in the world. To ensure the system provides quality and accessible education to all, the government of Punjab has increased its annual spend on education to $2.7 billion. This is in addition to the support provided by DFID. Transforming Punjab is the biggest education reform challenge on the planet. At the same time, it is a story of hope that has achieved impressive results in a relatively short period of time. Since 2011, we have seen primary enrollment increase from 84.8% to 90.4%. This has translated into an additional 1 million students attending school each day. Educating girls remains a strong focus, increasing the gender parity index from 0.85 to 0.91. Our teachers are turning up to teach, with teacher attendance increasing from 82% to 92%. Our schools have been transformed into safe learning environments, with over 45,000 basic facilities replaced, be it fresh drinking water or electricity. Furthermore, we have improved the learning environment in these schools by hiring more than 130,000 teachers on merit. From strengthening institutions to incorporating cutting-edge technology, we have taken all possible measures to ensure that this change will last. Monthly school visits by our monitoring and evaluation team have helped establish a robust performance management framework that will allow us to drive change as we move closer to our 2018 goals. Going forward, our focus will move beyond ensuring that the basics are in place and that every child in Punjab is enrolled in school to improving the quality of education and strengthening the delivery chain.
Having seen the impact in the education sector, the Chief Minister initiated 2 additional roadmaps focused on healthcare.
In healthcare, in education, we are making wonderful progress.
Punjab's health department manages over 3,000 facilities ranging from advanced teaching hospitals down to basic health units, all providing healthcare free of cost. In a typical day, the primary and secondary facilities treat 138,000 patients in OPD alone. In addition, the department employs a workforce of nearly 48,000 community-based health workers to provide basic public health to the rural population. The primary healthcare roadmap was launched in April 2014 and focuses on a few high-impact reforms that will help save the lives of women and children. The results in the past 18 months have been tangible and measurable. 700 basic health units have been upgraded to provide round-the-clock maternal services for expecting mothers. Management of 3,900 community vaccinators has been strengthened, ensuring that children receive essential immunizations in their first year of life. Punjab has also embarked on an improvement plan for the 2,800 frontline primary care facilities around the province. A year later, in February 2015, the secondary healthcare roadmap was launched to improve 122 hospitals around the province. Mechanisms for regular hospital inspection and patient feedback are now in place, and this has sparked new initiatives to improve hospital management and service delivery. To date, hospitals have seen a 30% increase in availability of key specialists and an overall improvement in the availability of critical medicines and supplies. This work is transformative. It is directly improving the lives of the 100 million citizens of Punjab.
We are able to have regular stock takes. It is our resolve and it is our commitment to the people of Punjab that with wonderful cooperation with our stakeholders and DFID particularly, we will be able to achieve our targets in times to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. That was absolutely fascinating. Could we start by going back a few years? Starting, Chief Minister, let's start with education before we move on to healthcare, because there's a kind of sequence there partly. What was the problem in education which required the new approach? And I'll bring in Michael.
Thank you very much. It's really a great pleasure to be here and discussing subjects which impact the life of every human being around the globe. And coming from Pakistan, where we have unfortunately lagged behind in providing basic needs of life to the common man over the period of time, to be part of this major thrust in improving our facilities is a great honor and a privilege and a challenge as well. Basically, when we talk of education, there is a wide gulf in terms of education to the scenes of average Pakistani and education for the children of elitist class. And of course I belong to this latter class, no question about it. We have absolute options available to us to send our children to the best schools in Pakistan and the best universities here in Britain and North America and south of France. And millions of children in Pakistan did not have even basic quality education. For example, in their schools, facilities have been missing for decades. Rooms for teaching purposes were not available. Teachers not properly trained, and ahead of that, not properly inducted. Curricula, another challenge. So all these put together, was a humongous challenge for me back in 2008 when I was elected for the second time as Chief Minister of Punjab, which is the largest province of Pakistan, 100 million people living over there. Now, we started with this commitment that we will start improving things, and we dedicated very large sums of monies in our annual budget to finance our education priorities. For example, missing facilities in terms of building walls, toilets, rooms, etc. Alone had a portfolio of billions of rupees, converting them into pounds, millions of pounds. For example, inducting teachers was a challenge because in our political environment, and I have to be very candid here, otherwise I'll be wasting your time and my time. Teachers who were inducted were largely on a political basis, and they were as an apology for a teacher. But I can say in the last 8 years, we have inducted, as you know, 130,000 teachers, 100% on merit. Now the challenge still is that to train them, to have master trainers, so that they're able to impart knowledge and education in the schools, wherever they come from. The challenge is that we don't have enough facilities of teachers training centers all over Punjab. The challenge is that we have to have teachers so they can really be mobile from their home place to their teaching point. The challenge is that we have to find teachers within those vicinities, in those areas, so that they're not absent. And the challenge is that we have to encourage boys and girls to come to those schools. And the challenge is that their parents, coming from very poor background and are not able to meet the two and together easily, that they do not hold their son or a daughter to work with them, rather encourage them to go to the school. These are, and these were the challenges.
Can I bring in Michael here?
Yeah.
Because the challenge is very well defined by the Chief Minister. You arrived, how, with a methodology, with techniques you'd applied in Britain. What was the challenge for you applying that?
Well, thank you, Peter, and thanks everybody for coming. And as will become clear in this conversation, what the Chief Minister is leading in Punjab is very, very radical and bold, both on education and health. And I salute him and his colleagues, many of whom are in the room. But in 2010, I went every month to Pakistan, not just to Punjab. I went every month, and towards the end of that time, I was learning. So I didn't say a lot. I was listening, learning, visiting schools, meeting people. And towards the end of that year, prompted by what I'd heard, people said, you have to meet Shehbaz Sharif, Chief Minister of Punjab, because he's got the political energy and the drive and the commitment on education. We were just talking about education at the time. And eventually, we had met formally earlier, but we eventually, in October of 2010, we had a meeting where I had prepared with my team a brief presentation that showed that Punjab was not on track to meet the Millennium Development Goals. We also had some Pakistani colleagues in our team who had taken photographs in schools showing absent teachers, poor facilities and so on. And in this meeting, what became apparent is that it was exactly that the Chief Minister wanted to fix, but through the system as it was then constructed was finding it very difficult to get traction. So there was a lot of political drive and energy, and it was getting lost in the system. The officials I met at that time, I think the Chief Minister will confirm this, they were good people, but they'd given up believing they could change it. They thought it would never get better. You've heard me before quote the Russian Prime Minister, we tried to do better, but everything turned out as usual. They thought it wouldn't get better. And what the Chief Minister realised in that meeting is that the delivery approach could give him a mechanism for getting real change, and you could check whether it was working because we'd get data in, we'd have regular stock takes. And at the beginning, apart from the Chief Minister, most of the people in that meeting, the Punjab officials, were sceptical, I would say. But quite quickly they became enthusiasts because suddenly the energy they were trying to direct turned into actual outcomes. So we put a plan in place, and the keys to it since then have been two things, and I'll come back to you, Peter. One is consistent drive from the Chief Minister, so stock take every 2 months without fail, where the progress is reviewed in line with the data, beautiful presentations, lots of clarity about what the actions need to be to refine. As you heard from the Chief Minister, there are many problems there. So of course not everything works out perfectly, but in the stock takes we can refine it and take it forward. That's one thing. And the second is now in the Education Department, the Secretary of Schools is here, and in the SM...
Yeah. Jabbar, Secretary of Education, very dedicated person.
And then the head of the Special Monitoring Unit, Azaz Akhtar, they are putting in place data systems and ways of driving, and then the Punjab Information Technology Board, led by Umar Saif. Punjab is now world leading in the innovation in the application of technology to collecting really good data.
Say, one thing that strikes me, which clearly was early from, is just the availability and collection of data. You know, how was that brought in that you actually knew with the stock takes in as large a province as you were dealing with? I mean, which is, you know, in the top 30 of countries in the world in size, or larger, smaller than that.
Very good question. First of all, let me, ladies and gentlemen, make this statement, you know, in all earnest, that when Sir Michael Barber joined us back in 2010, we were at a very initial stage of bringing these improvements, which have been ignored over the period of time. And ever since, it's now little over 5 years, my association with him, I haven't come across a better human resource than him in terms of, not that he's the person around the globe, but 10 in 1, punctuality, commitment, regular stock takes, be it scorching heat, rainfall, storm, he would be in Lahore on the announced date. That gave us immense encouragement, support, and I myself went through a learning curve through these stock takes, which would take place every 3 months. I would, and this is a continuing process, I would hold the meeting with the entire who's who in the government of Punjab, right from the Chief Secretary to the Minister to the Secretary of Education and local government and other officers. And we would go through that stock take, and again in green, in red, and and pale yellow. And there the performance of the concerned officers would be judged through that input. They would get their a regular audit, and that audit report would come forward. Heads would roll straight away, or given appreciation to those who were doing the job with flying colors. And this mechanism of penalty and appreciation started working very effectively. Now the question was, how accurate is this audit? How accurate is this manual sort of input? That was a challenge, because at times, a particular slide would be challenged by somebody. No, Chief Minister, this is not the position on the ground. You need to cross-check it. And then we developed a very, very modern IT-led system. Created a dashboard, and Dr. Umar Saif, who's sitting here, can you please, Dr. Saif, show your face? He's the head of our Information Technology Board, and through his good office, we started reaching to the thousands of schools all over Punjab through various mechanisms. I would ask Dr. Umar Saif to more ably explain this mechanism in just a minute or two. Would you kindly?
You can take the mic, it's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're increasingly using more and more smartphones, Android devices for collecting data now in health, education, law and order, etc. And all the stock takes are sort of based on the evidence that gets collected through these smartphones. For the school monitoring program, we have about 1,000 people called MEAs who visit schools every month, all 53,000 of them, using smartphones and collect all sorts of data, take their pictures, selfies in front of the school as evidence that they went there. The pictures are geotagged, the forms get geotagged, etc. And all this information comes in sort of in real time in these systems and then get summarized on district level KPIs and TESI level KPIs. These are little administrative units. And as soon as we've figured out that a performance indicator has fallen below a certain threshold, etc., SMSs go out to school teachers, to headmasters, to line managers, taking them to take their small corrective steps. And then all of this comes together after every 8 weeks in a stock take the Chief Minister chairs to look at this data. We made this data public also, which is a huge step for us. This is sort of first open data for Government of Punjab. And not only just proactively sort of published it online, but we've sort of built a mechanism where citizens, school councils can register interests whenever an MEA visits a school and fills up a form. And you can register for an alert to be sent to you, and you can come and dispute this data online on this website. And that generates sort of further inquiry within the government. That the guy who's visiting the school, sure is visiting the school because he has an Android device, cannot forge that data, but he might just be lying about the cleanliness of the school or that the teacher was actually there, etc. And so that probing and prodding with the citizens, I think, is sort of the step forward for us now. But it's also coming together quite nicely, as Michael Babar puts it. And I think sort of this is beginning to look like something that that we have a handle on finally.
Just to ask Michael on this, how far did you adapt the techniques you'd applied in Britain and indeed, some of the work you're doing in the States to the Punjab? What innovations were brought in? Because it sounds the description we just heard of the way the information was collected, the availability, the ability to challenge is very interesting, and it actually goes rather further than some of the stuff you're doing.
Yeah. So you asked what innovations I brought. The innovation was totally the result of the Punjab leadership and Omar Saif and the Chief Minister and Shehbaz, that they have innovated. And we've just come from a meeting with the UK implementation unit, at which they were saying to Punjab colleagues, we would really like to learn from you how you do this data collection. So that's very important. I think the other thing we've really thought about systematically, and as I've used in presentations with the Chief Minister, is mapping, which we didn't do back then. The maps are beautiful.
Heat map.
The first time that we showed the heat map of Punjab to the Chief Minister, he said, I'm going to sleep with these maps under my pillow. They're so interesting. And so we use the data to target interventions where it's necessary rather than blanket.
Could I just
changes.
raise one issue, which is very interesting? Sorry, yes, indeed.
You were just referring to the innovation. This was the technique and this was the innovation he brought to Pakistan, to Lahore. We call it heat map. And through this heat map, in a particular district, this heat map would tell us, through their input, that so many schools are not functional, so many teachers are present and not present, so many students are present and not present. And we would then cross-check with education department's figures and rely on this technique and this innovation, and slowly but surely we started improving things. And as such, we then created these colorful map, green, purple, burgundy, red, and through this we would tell that this particular district is performing very well and this particular district is performing poorly. And to cross-check whether this information is reliable came in Dr. Umar Saif's interventions. And that gave us huge data through which we were pretty sure that things are improving. And that's how our enrollment has jumped up from 80%, 90% plus, and hopefully by 2018, I have resolved with my own self and with my creator, and I have committed with my people that we will take this enrollment to 100% by 2018. Sir Michael tells me nowhere in the world 100% has been achieved. But if you achieve 98%, that by itself is almost 100%. I said, no, we will achieve 100%, come what may.
Could I ask you on this point? I mean, very interesting. You, both in terms of student enrolment, but also a key issue is teacher attendance. Because absolutely, I mean, I can't imagine anything more demoralising to the school if the children turn up and the teachers aren't there. How? All right, you get the data. How do you? What are the interventions which ensure that teacher attendance rises?
So one thing about the other thing about the data is the speed of collection. So it's the 1st of December today. By the Monday of next week, we will have the data for November, and that will be analysed. The Chief Minister can look at it, but also it will go back into the district. So if you're a district, there are 36 districts. The district education lead will get a data pack that shows him or her which schools met the targets, which ones didn't, the name of the head teacher, and if the school's got a telephone, the phone number. So all he has to do, or she has to do, is call and say, you're off track, can you do something about it? That speed is a very important part of this. But on teacher attendance, as the Chief Minister was saying, in the past in Punjab, and still true in many parts of Pakistan and India, by the way, teachers are appointed on a political basis, they're transferred on a political basis. But in Punjab now, all the flow of new teachers is based 100% on merit. So that's making a big difference, because these are people who are committed to education. They're not just getting political positions. The second thing is the monitoring, the data monitors that Umar Saif talked about visit each school each month, and they count the teachers. They don't check a register, they actually count the teachers. They go into the classrooms. Recently, another innovation, they actually test 2 or 3 of the children, so we're beginning to get data on learner outcomes from classrooms across Punjab on every month. So the data collectors check. Now, when I was last in Lahore, Umar and I were, Saif and his team and I were discussing this. If your monthly check is on the 7th of November, you might think no data collector is going to come between now and the 1st of December because we've had our visit, and you might stop showing up. So what they're doing now is putting in random checks as well as the monthly checks. So that's the other thing. And then the other thing is that the schools are actually better places to be because the kids are coming and the buildings are fixed. So all of these things contribute to improving teacher attendance, which is now roughly 92-93%. In Wales, it's 94%. So it's not far off.
We've got to go to Wales next. Yes.
Yeah. One small thing I just want to share with you, my fellow parliamentarians sitting here. It used to be almost a given that they had this privilege of nominating certain number of people from their constituencies, no matter what is their education, as teachers in the past. And imagine what happened to our education as a result of this bane. And thousands of teachers used to be inducted into education department, regardless of their education or whatever, just purely on political basis. And now these colleagues of mine, I'm very grateful to them, they don't even bother about teacher induction because that's gone. It's purely on merit, 100% merit. How can you expect a nation to become empowered unless you have genuinely given them the gift of knowledge? And they can only be given by teachers and not by toadies. So I think this is a paradigm shift which has happened in Punjab, and I can say for my province. And combined with that, I have to say that DFID has been a great partner in this great and wonderful game of education we are playing in Punjab. As I speak, for Punjab, DFID has allocated almost about £600 million spanning over the 5 years, from 2011 till now. And I can say without any fear of contradiction that every penny of British taxpayer is being invested in a most productive fashion and in a very transparent fashion. And every penny is to be held to account. And that is a great contributing factor. We have now, for the last 3-4 years, launched yet another program. It is called Punjab Skill Development Company. It is equally owned by 50% by government of Punjab and 50% by DFID. And thousands of boys and girls are being churned out, given skill training in various trades, demand driven. And this is how we are now focusing upon that our youth bulge. When we talk of terrorism, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that empty mind, having nothing to do at all and nothing to be busy about, has an evil mind and can be picked up by these outfits, at a very small amount. Now, in order to wean them away from them, you have to make them productive, and therefore skill development, middle-level education is most important for a country like Pakistan, which has seen devastation out of these extremists and these terrorists. And that's what we are doing with DFID. This program is now spreading all over Punjab. Not only that, we have our other institutions equivalent to Punjab Skill Development Company, like TEFTA, like PVTC Chairman TEFTA sitting here, and annually we churn out hundreds and thousands of students given training in blue pottery, in motor mechanic, technician, plumber, and so on and so forth, so that they are picked up by industry and agriculture in the country and outside Pakistan. This is how we are going to defeat terrorism along with the bullet of the gun. And this is how a country can become empowered and stand on its own feet. And that's why I always say that while we always believe that DFID's benign and very valuable contribution towards Pakistan is deeply appreciated by the people of Pakistan, deeply appreciated by me. But slowly but surely, we have to walk in the direction that we start standing on our own feet. And this will not happen overnight. But if we keep walking in this direction, a day will come that we will be a nation to be counted, for which Pakistan was carved out in 1947 by Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was a very forward-looking leader, who was a very progressive leader, who believed in that a nation state has to give equal rights to all its citizens, be they Muslim or non-Muslim, be they Sunni or Shia or Parsi or a Christian or a Hindu or a Sikh. And this is absolutely enshrined in the Constitution of Pakistan. Unfortunately, in the last few decades, we have gone astray for a variety of reasons, and this is not the forum. I'm going to discuss those reasons, but suffice it to say that under the leadership of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, we are now walking in that direction, which will make ultimately Pakistan Jinnah's Pakistan. One last point in this context, then and that is, we have, for the first time in Pakistan's history, in 2008, we established what we call Punjab Education Endowment Fund. And this was the first of its kind in Pakistan's history. Today, this entity has in its kitty about $160 million. By your standard, it's very small. By our standard, it's a very large amount. And out of this fund, its annual income, we are picking up education finances of hundreds and thousands of boys and girls in the province who are very brainy, absolutely wonderful, yet they don't have enough funds to finance their education. Their parents are very poor. Education is the right of every citizen all over the globe. How can this be that we carved out a country out of India where we would give equal rights to every citizen, and yet education is a privilege and not the right of every common man? So that's what we have done in the last 8 years in Pakistan. And PIF has just a month ago completed 100,000 boys and girls on its payroll who are going to the best universities in Pakistan, outside Pakistan, becoming doctors, becoming engineers. Otherwise, they would have been grass cutters. They would have been loaders or sweepers. And imagine, I mean, there are only two parameters. One is their need base and the other is their performance. And now these are doctors, these are engineers, these are teachers, PhDs and whatnot. And this is how we're trying to change the course of history. And DFID again is a partner in PEEF. They have started contributing in the seed money of PEEF. And DFID again is a partner in PEF. PEF is Punjab Education Foundation. Now what is this? This is very important, ladies and gentlemen. It is a voucher scheme. In a locality, a family, I mean the father or the mother, is given an option or an offer that, look, this is 3,000 rupees or $30 is available to you for your son or your teacher, and within this bracket, go and admit your son or a daughter in any school in your locality. Private school, it's up to you. And through this PEF intervention, today we have enrolled how much? 1.8 million boys and girls who are going to private schools. This 52,000 is public school, sort of volume. But these through PEF intervention, they're going to private schools.
And private schools are 6,096
in Punjab. So they're given an option, and that's how our enrollment is increasing. That's how we are trying to empower our youth. And that's how DFID and Sir Michael are so important to us.
Could I you've done talked about the education challenge. Could I move on to the other challenge? Because I don't want to neglect it, because it was health, which you moved on to. Now, very different challenge. Michael, how did, when you moved on to health, how did the approach there differ, and where's the innovations been there?
I want to answer the question. I just want to pick out two things from the Chief Minister's contribution just now. One is, you see the drive that the system gets from its leadership, but the second is this PEF, the Punjab Education Foundation, is now educating more students, and they're poor students. These vouchers are targeted to poor families. They're now educating more students than Denmark. So the Punjab Education Foundation alone is a bigger school system than Denmark, and the Chief Minister has decided that no new schools in primary age will be built by the government. They're all being built through these public-private partnerships. So this is very, very innovative policy. But on health, once we had the process working in education, the Chief Minister, well aware of the health challenges that were in the video, wanted to apply it into particularly primary healthcare, reducing the very problematic infant mortality rates, the maternal deaths in childbirth, and using similar data collection system that Ezaz Akhtar from the SMU and Dumasafe from PITB have put in place. Very similar data collection system, the same stock taking process, the same focus on merit. Since April 2014, so just a year and a half, the data is already being radically transformed. There were many doctors who were meant to be at basic health units who didn't go. Now they all go. 600 of them resigned because they had been collecting a salary and not working, and now they had to work for their salary, so 600 resigned and they've been replaced. The vaccinators are all monitored by remote technology, smartphones, all the things you heard Umar Saif talk about. And the percentage of vaccinator attendance on any given day has gone from 20-something% to 90-something%. The number of women giving birth with a skilled birth attendant present was 5,000 a month when we started. It's now 23,000 a month, which is remarkable. All of these things, we won't get the data on infant mortality till 2018 because it's collected on a big international timetable, but I expect them to show a significant fall in the infant mortality rate simply because of that. I could go on, and it's exactly the same process, the combination of data, stock takes, political drive. But
a roadmap.
And in many, because it learnt from education, and so they started with that background, they've actually gone faster at the beginning on health than on education because the system was set up to run for them.
But may I add one thing?
that it is the, as they say, money makes the mayor go. It's the head of the department which makes or breaks in a country like Pakistan.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, our institutional frameworks over the period of time could not get strengthened for a variety of reasons, including weak governments, change in governments, military rules and whatnot. I'm not going to go into that. Suffice it to say that our institutional arrangements remained weak. So at the moment, we are relying heavily on the person who is heading a department. And that's extremely important for us. So we have tried to select and pick and appoint the best people out of bureaucracy and politicians. It's a combination. Now healthcare, unless the health of a boy and a girl is sound, how can you expect them to be educated? How can you expect them to be working hands for the nation and builders of the nation? So healthcare is extremely important to us, or for that matter anybody, if not more. And let me be very honest with you, and there's no point beating around the bush. We spend billions and billions of rupees and billions of dollars in equivalent amount annually on healthcare and education. But while we have made marked improvement in our education sector, our health department still remains stagnant, and there's a lot more is to be done. For example, we have machines, they're not working because A, technicians are sometimes absent, or I'm sorry to say that not all of them, but some doctors would want machines not to work because they have their own outfit outside the hospital. And that's a shame. It's very embarrassing to say all this here, but London is a friend of Pakistan. Therefore, there's no harm, talking very frankly over here. And then the level of cleanliness is certainly far lagging behind. Yeah. Punctuality. Medicines, we provide medicine in the hospital, but at times they are siphoned off. So what I'm saying is that unless your nation is healthy, you can never be rich and you can never be progressive and forward-looking. So therefore, last year we decided, and I'm again greatly obliged and thankful to DFID that they accepted our request, and here we are. We have now a regular health program going in Punjab through the partnership of DFID and Government of Punjab, and exactly it's a replica of education roadmap. And now things are improving slowly but surely. For example, vaccinators are being tracked by Dr. Umar Saif and by Azaz, and wherever they are, we find out, are they absent or are they not? Are these funds being utilized on time? Are they not? Are nurses available or they're not? Are doctors present or they're not? And those are the basics that unless we have a grip on these elements, you will never be able to get output out of your investments. So therefore, this health roadmap is also in place, and I think British government has been extremely, because believe me, it's not that it's money. I believe in this self-coined adage that resources always follow innovation, commitment and dedication, and it is not the other way around. If you have somewhere in sand dune areas of Middle East gold or black gold, and if you're not committed, and if you're not innovating, if you're not determined, that gold will turn into mud. But if you have sand, you will convert that sand into producing solar energy if you are forward-looking, visionary, and you are committed and you are making untiring efforts. And that's how I believe in.
Could I just Before opening it up to the audience, you touched on a couple of points, Chief Minister, and Michael has too, where resistance has come. I mean, that all change comes, involves resistance. I mean, how much is it overcoming professionals with their own self-interest, whether teachers or doctors, people not turning up, or someone? What's the political resistance to doing this? I mean, you are, after all, a very successful politician as Chief Minister.
You have raised a very touching question and touch our raw nerve. Well, I tell my colleagues that if you, wherever in the world, a change was always resisted, no matter what happened. It's Britain. I mean, when you bring in changes here, there is a resistance. In Pakistan, wherever. But if you want to really serve the nation, collectively and with honesty of purpose, then change, slowly but surely, in a prudent fashion, has to be brought in. For example, now this induction of 130,000 teachers, they're all highly educated boys and girls, and they came through a system of very verifiable test results, NTC, NTS and Punjab Public Service Commission, and they have been inducted as teachers, and the old guard, which are absolutely empty-minded and doing nothing, are being relieved as the time passes by, and these teachers are taking their place. 1. 2, we are outsourcing schools to NGOs, to private sector, to public-private partnership, through various mechanisms, because you cannot rely on 1 or 2 interventions. It has to be multiple interventions to achieve your goal somewhere down the line. Now, 5,000 schools, we have just decided before coming to London, 5,000 schools in Punjab, which we are not able to handle properly, are being offered for public-private partnership to those NGOs, to those outfits who have a track record of providing good quality education to children in the private sector. And look, we would have spent this money to those schools for ages to come, and results would have been marginally better. But the same amount of money for these 5,000 schools will now be given to these NGOs, and we will get results as regulators. So this is the kind of intervention and inventions we are bringing in. Just a word about Punjab Skill Development Company, which is partnered by DFID and Punjab. Here, there is no brick and mortar. Now, this is very important to understand. There is no machinery we are procuring that breeds corruption at the bureaucratic level, at the political level. It is an unholy alliance at times between the bureaucrat, between the politician and the contractor. So what we have done is that we are not building buildings or buying machines. We have selected through a process of selection companies like in textile, in leather making, in blue pottery in Multan, and those companies are paid per student fees, and they train our students. So you are not wasting time on building buildings, wasting money, corruption, oversight, etc. You have straight away built a mechanism through which you are outsourcing everything, and yet there is third-party audit which audits their performance and gives a report. On that basis, we either appreciate them or penalize them. I think this is how, sir, we are trying to change Pakistan.
Michael.
I just want to pick out some things. I mean, you're hearing it exactly how it is, and the sort of honesty and directness of the Chief Minister in facing up to the problems is a fundamental part of the success that Punjab is now having. But I just want to pick out a few things. One is the Chief Minister talked about the teachers appointed on merit, the 130,000. But the other thing that has been crucial to the roadmaps is appointing top officials on merit and keeping them in place. A phrase I often hear in Punjab, which I like a lot, is you ask about a particular official and they say he's hardworking and honest. And what the Chief Minister has been doing, and this is a very important part of the process, is putting hardworking and honest people in the key positions to drive these roadmaps, and then making sure they stay 2-3 years. Secretary's been there since 2013, Secretary Schools, so 2.5 years.
He was going to his refresher course for his promotion and he volunteered. Chief Minister, I'm so enthusiastic by this education program. I'll forgo my promotion, but I'll stay in education. I think we should clap for him.
So that's very important. The second thing is the Chief Minister, in addition to the data which we've heard about, also has started doing unannounced visits. Obviously, politicians go on organised visits, but then everything is organised, everything's done. Recently, I think you don't mind me telling this, Chief Minister, in October, the Chief Minister visited a hospital completely unannounced and found a lack of cleanliness, found medicines being siphoned off, as he mentioned a few minutes ago, that should have been free to the users of the hospital, but actually were being sold outside the hospital. And one of the things the delivery process does, and this is a general rule about delivery, is that generates energy because you get anger from a Chief Minister who sees these abuses. The stocktake provides you the place to direct that energy to change. So by the next stocktake, which is due in 2 weeks' time, the hospitals, as a result of Ezaz's work, will now be much cleaner. Do you see what I mean? So one unannounced visit has a consequence for 130 hospitals because you've got a delivery process in place. And this is I think unannounced visits are very important and a key part of the delivery. The last thing I want to pick out is from a previous contribution from the Chief Minister. It's really important to note this. You've heard his praise for the partnership with DFID and how much he appreciates the partnership with Britain. But the goal, the stated goal, is to stand on our own 2 feet. The Chief Minister already imagines the end of aid, beyond aid. There'll still be a partnership, deep collaboration with Britain because these are countries that have a strong bond. But you can see that what Punjab is aiming to do is build its own capacity to deliver this. That's why there's an SMU driving delivery. That's why there's a PITB, which is a model institution globally speaking. That's why important people like the Secretary are being put in place in the departments to build the capacity of those departments. So I think it's really worth seeing the long-term benefit of this. This is not an aid program that's going to come and go. This is the transformation of Punjab.
We've only got another 7 or 8 minutes. I just wanted to open it up to a couple of questions. Hand at the back. Could you say who you are? We'll group them together. We'll take 2 or 3 together. Yep.
My name is Graham Duncan, and I'm a senior civil servant here in Britain, but I was born and brought up in Pakistan.
Oh.
My father was a college lecturer there in Sialkot.
Oh, Sialkot.
Yeah, so my father worked at Murray College.
Sialkot, yeah.
We should recruit you.
So I'm incredibly interested in this, and I actually am a trustee of a small charity that tries to support low-income private schools in poor Christian communities in the Punjab. And I think we really need to understand your agenda to make sure that we are reinforcing and supporting it in that part of the system. So my question is, how can people who want to find out more about what's happening and how we can sort of reinforce what you're trying to do in the government keep in touch with that?
Yeah, well, we'll take them together if you don't mind. Gentleman there.
Khalid Khan from Department for Business Innovation and Skills. I'm fascinated by your talk and the changes you're bringing, but I wanted to know how you're going to ensure that these practices continue in future, because it seems that you are the main motivation behind these changes. So what institutional practices or institutions you are bringing in to make sure these things continue?
Very interesting. Have we got a third one? Gentleman there. And then we'll take group those 3 together.
Yeah, Trevor Lanwarn. I'm recently retired government actuary here in the UK. I'm a big fan of everything around data. I was totally inspired by everything you were saying. To me, in the UK, and I'm doing some work with non-executives and so on, to me, I think we've got a lot to learn from what you're doing. And one of the big issues is the data itself and the presentation, which you haven't mentioned, but you talked about stock takes. To what extent are you willing to share some of those presentations? And to what extent, how important is it the way in which that data is presented? Because that's incredibly critical in getting change, in my experience.
Yeah, right. Let's take those. Michael, you want to do the data one? I noticed you were saying, and then we'll go on to the other two, which are very much the Chief Minister's province.
First of all, in my recent book, How to Run a Government, some of that data actually appears, so you can check it out in there. But also, we can share those presentations with people. I think you've seen some aspects of them here at the Institute of Government. I may be wrong. So they're shareable, and the crucial thing with data. We've heard about the collection of the data and making it public from safe, but the crucial thing for a stock take is what questions do you ask of the data? So you've got to really focus them on the agenda of the stock take, changing the health system or the education system. What questions do you ask? And then thirdly, so collect the data, ask good questions, and thirdly, present it beautifully. Chief ministers or prime ministers are busy people. They don't want to look at scatter graphs and distributions and lots of dots on a page. They need beautiful presentation. The first presentation we did on the health roadmap for the chief minister had one compelling graph, which I think I attribute a lot of the health roadmap to. It put the infant mortality in Punjab up in one bar, 88 per 1,000. Next door to that was one other bar, infant mortality in Punjab, India, 37 per 1,000. And next, infant mortality in Sri Lanka, 8 per 1,000. You don't have to be, to think that through much to realise that that is something that needs to change. 88, 37, 8. And the Chief Minister looked at that graph, turned to his health officials and said, how can you sleep at night? That's what compelling presentation of data does, and that was the beginning of the change. So the thing with the data is to collect it well, and Omar and Ezaz are innovating in that area, and then to have in Ezaz's team and in the health department people who ask good questions, and then the ability to present it beautifully.
There were two questions for you, Chief Minister. I mean, one on people knowing especially about it, and the other, a very interesting one, on how do you ensure it's institutionalised.
Exactly.
I mean, Michael gave one aspect of the answer, but the key challenge is your one on that.
Before I answer these two very important questions, just one point I just want to add one thing more. This unannounced visits to hospitals and schools, I think this is probably the most flawless strategy you can undertake for fact gathering, and you can't go wrong then. And then you can compare. If you go with pomp and show, with protocol, everything will be spick and span, and all feelings will be hushed up under the carpet. So this is one reason I go, and the other reason I hope the enemies of humanity won't come to know of this secret, that if you go unannounced, it is the best security measure you're taking against perpetrators. The question from our British friend who was born in Sialkot, there's a Punjabi in our dialect saying, Mundia Sialkotia, boy from Sialkot, Pakistan. Yes, I think you're very welcome to to contribute, and we will facilitate you all the way. All these information are available on our website. For example, this education website of the Government of Punjab, health department website is available. Yes, there's a point that these websites at times are not properly loaded, they're not updated. Dr. Umar Sahib is helping me a lot in improving this culture, but this is available, and I am just a telephone call away, or you can write me a letter, and I'll be very happy to be partner with you in this behalf. You're most welcome.
Just in front of you is the Education Minister, Rana Massoud. So
Rana Massoud is sitting here?
Yes, who's been leading this effort, so you can talk on the way out.
You can just contact him. Rana Sahib, abhi aap unse baat karenge.
Thank you.
You have made a very valid observation that what happens, once this dispensation goes away, it has to go one day because time never remains at a standpoint. It keeps on moving. So we have all to play our innings and go. Yes, some of these initiatives are protected by the passage of law of the Punjab Assembly. We have passed bills and we have protected all these initiatives. Certain initiatives, for example, the law says that teachers have to be inducted on merit, but in the past the law was violated and it was not respected. Today we have respected the law and given it tremendous value. I believe the ultimate judge of the improved services are parents in the case of education and health. If the children are healthy, parents are the best judge. If the children are getting quality education, parents would always admire that. This strength of civil society will never allow these things to change ever again. The times of the hand of a clock will never be taken back because people have tasted and will taste higher quality lifestyle.
Michael, you
I think that just want to reinforce the Chief Minister's last point. You and I actually, Peter, interacted on this very platform with Martin O'Malley, the former Governor of Maryland, and he said something which I think actually summarises what we've heard from the Chief Minister. He said, we're trying to move from the politics of patronage to the politics of performance. And this is what the Chief Minister is doing. It's exactly that. And once the parents and the citizens of Punjab say, this is the service we want and we're not going back, then it will be institutionalised.
Can I just, before thanking Betty, can I ask one point? You moved from education to health. What's next? Not to say there aren't enormous challenges in education and health still to do, but I mean, thinking...
Law and order.
Law and order, exactly.
Law and order. It's a triangle, ladies and gentlemen. Health, education, and law and order. If you put these three elements in place in a triangle, everything else falls in place for any forward-looking society. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much. I don't know how would you adjudicate today's interaction, but I really thoroughly enjoyed this session, and in a place from where we are getting immense support, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's security. Britain is Pakistan's historical friend. Our friendship is rooted into centuries of history, and we understand each other's culture, and our boys and girls have been to these universities. There is a large diaspora living in Britain. So I think it's intertwined, and therefore this partnership is very valuable to me, and we have no doubt this will continue in times to come for our mutual benefits and interest.
Well, could I, before asking the audience to thank you both very much indeed. I mean, it's been absolutely illuminating. I mean, for many at the Institute, this is part of a continuing dialogue. I'm very glad that Michael Barber mentioned Martin O'Malley, who's been here twice, because actually you might think Maryland is very different from the Punjab, but actually there are interesting parallels. And the point you made of moving from patronage to performance, I've sat in with two of my colleagues here on stock takes in Annapolis almost a year ago with Martin O'Malley, and actually you might think it would be different. It isn't. There are many absolute parallels on some of the issues being looked at, performance, where the resistance comes, where the difficulties come. Obviously, massive differences in the scale of income. So I think the interesting questions, a lot of these questions do apply much more broadly, and it's been absolutely fascinating hearing you talk. And it also is absolutely clear the importance of political will and leadership, which is fundamental. And also, Michael, as always, thank you for returning to the Institute for your insights on that. So could I ask the audience in joining me, and thank you both very much indeed for coming.